Tiny note on being autistic and ADHD. Every single day on which I want coffee, I get up and I make my coffee, which is most days. I make my coffee in the same way, with the same ingredients, but recently I switched up my stevia from the powder stuff to the liquid stuff. Now for some reason, every single time I make my coffee, I forget to put my stevia in it. And it's not as simple as, oh, it's new so I can't recall. It's actually just being kept in a different place. So every single day I'm like, okay, remember to get the stevia. I'm like, yeah, gotta remember to get the stevia and put it in before I taste that coffee unsweetened. And then I forget, and I get a mouthful of the nastiest. Like, why do I drink this stuff if I don't like it without sugar? Well, because I like it with sugar. It's like, why do you eat a cake if you don't like it without sugar? Honestly, I don't know that I wouldn't like a cake without sugar. It's very complex. It depends on the cake. But anyway, sometimes you just do things the way you do them, and it turns out it's worth it when there is something in it to sweeten it. There's a little sugar, but I will have all of the sugar, so I use the stevia so I don't do that. It's very important. It needs to be made in a certain way. So I've just discussed it myself yet again. That's how I open every single one of my videos these days in private. I ruin my mouth with this nasty tasting stuff that has spices and everything else, and no stevia. Not enough sugar to sweeten it, and no stevia, and then I hit record. So I figured today I'd just talk about it since it's the only thing on my mind, except mainly what I want to talk about. Excuse me, I don't even know how I'm going to do it now, because it's kind of a heavy subject, I think, and I can't begin to encompass it in one video. But some of us out here are having the experience of being born female, identifying as female, and discovering that we're autistic later in life. And there's something about discovering that we're autistic. I also discovered that I'm ADHD. And a lot of us are going to be realizing we're one or the other, or both, at a time in our lives when traditionally everything is resetting anyway. And as women, as tiny little girls, very often everything that we do is framed in what we are to everyone else. And not always in a way that seems like it's taking from us or like it's taking too much. Sometimes it's just, you're a sister, you're a daughter. You might love your sibling, you might love your parent, your caretaker, to whomever you're a daughter or a sister, your best friend, whatever it is. You end up being something to them. And very often when you find out what they love, you love being that. Because when you love someone and you're making them happy, it feels really good to do that thing. So it might be exactly who you are without trying. It might be adding new stuff. But whatever it is, it takes a certain amount of energy, and it takes a certain amount of your day. Time is going by. It's very common for us to experience raising somebody. There are a million different kinds of motherhood. Some of us will give birth. Some of us will give a different kind of birth where our children will come from other places. Some of us will be a mother looking for a child or not knowing we want one, and the child will find us, or vice versa. And for some of us, it's going to be someone else. It might be another sibling or a cousin or somebody that you know. You might end up mothering somebody very unexpectedly, but there is a lot of everything that comes out of us to do that, and it's very often a stage in our lives. For some of us, not even one we were prepared for on any level. I'm not sure who's truly prepared. The whole concept is to be full of surprises, but we end up having all of these different roles, and some of them are some of the most famously recognized ones. Everybody knows it's a big deal. It's taking a lot, it's doing a lot, it's going to encompass your life, you're going to end up identifying with it. I'm sitting here at 41 years of age, and I had the experience of, while I suspected that I was autistic, I had passing thoughts about ADHD, but this was a different time frame, and the ADHD model was how it shows up in males. The stevia is all over my hands. That's good to know. My stevia is leaking. That's fantastic. I'm going to quietly clean the stevia off of my hands. while I continue to speak, I hope. That's very distracting. It's quite sticky. Anyway, what I'm saying is we have these roles. We end up doing things for people and being someone to everyone, and often who we're being changes based on the person for whom we're being it. So we have a million roles, whether it's with colleagues, with loved ones, with best friends. I'll check that. I'll re-say this in case I need to edit it. Whether it's with colleagues, with loved ones, with best friends, whether you're in a mother position, a daughter position, a wife position, whether you're trying to be in these positions and they're not working well for you, because sometimes we're desperately trying to be a mother, daughter, wife, and it's not, you know. This stuff takes time, and the more time and energy it takes, the more likely it is to subsume everything else within us. We might be a million different things when we're by ourselves or in our free time, and sometimes that doesn't get to shine or glow. And for some of us, we've hidden who we are to survive. I had that experience, and so I reached a point in my life where I'm around 40, and everybody else's stuff has fallen away. It's not that simple, but for the sake of brevity, it was all there, and then it's basically gone. Who am I when I'm alone? As a neurodivergent person, it wasn't just that everybody else's expectations of me and everything that I wanted to be had suddenly changed. It was that I suddenly realized, oh, okay, I'm autistic. It's clear. I don't have a reason to doubt it anymore. I found my Audhd tribe. I know how my brain works. Suddenly I get everything that ever went wrong, or for that matter, ever went right in my life. I get why everything was different. There are a lot of things about myself. It wasn't just that. It wasn't even just also learning that I'm ADHD. But some of us are going through something like, it's the age that people very regularly refer to as leading to a midlife crisis. And for women, it's often quite a thing, because so much of our previous identity and or identities have been about other people, other things, other expectations. In my experience, as human females, the reason why we have such an intense mask as neurodivergents is because everyone has already told us what we are going to be and what we need to be. We don't really have to develop our mask from scratch. I didn't. I would sit in the mirror and practice faces, but I did it based on people telling me distinctly exactly what they thought was wrong with the ones I already had. So I had explicit directions and instructions. And then fast forward from me being a little girl learning how not to be myself. And all of the time frame where I was just actively being a role. Even in a positive moment, I was playing a role to somebody. A few decades later, I realized that, I'm approaching the midlife time frame, and I realized I'm autistic. So anyway, had to reset up a little bit. I started a coughing fit. I couldn't stop, so the video has to be edited now. The point of the video is, and I don't know how I'm going to address this or describe it. I'm thinking, and I've been thinking about this a lot, because it's been so much in my life. It's the female experience. It's autism as a woman. It's ADHD as a woman. In a world where those things were, at least at some point, and increasingly that's going away, not supposed to exist, not paid attention to. Some of us have had the woman of color experience on top of it, which is a weight that I can't stand the burden on my heart of really thinking about that right now. So, because I feel very emotional thinking about this. There's an experience of being a female autist. And there's an experience of being a person of color who's autistic, and if you're a female POC who's autistic. And ADHD, I mean, it seems like we're the unicorns or the dragons or something. It's like we're the unicorns because we're so rare and so unique, right? Or at least we're supposed to be. I'm sure we're not, but that's the theory. We're addressed in that way. I want to say like a dragon because just reading a book description, I've read way too many book descriptions, and the book on the surface is about a cafe owner, but it's a cafe for baby dragons. And so this is what she wants, but it hasn't occurred to her apparently that they're going to incinerate everything. So now she's dealing with the fact that, yeah, they're the baby dragons and they're there, but they just keep setting fire to everything and destroying it all, and I can't afford this, and how am I going to keep the cafe running? I feel like there's an aspect to being a female autistic ADHDer that's almost like being that baby dragon, where there is some appeal and you might be liked and appreciated in certain ways, but ultimately every now and then you snort a little flame and something goes up and people are like, oh, okay, you just straight up ruined my stuff. For better or for worse, whether you really ruined it or not, I think there's an edge to that. I'm glad I'm laughing because I feel like I'm going to cry. We get to a certain point where after a life, it's a very well-known story a lot of us have experienced, and I have experienced this, so this is what I'm talking about. After a life of being something to somebody, after a life of being, whether in a conventional way or an unconventional way, no matter how you got there, and whether that label would be recognized in a court of law or it's recognized in your heart, in people's hearts, just in the realm of spiritual truth. Often we've been or tried to be or found ourselves being in some way a wife, a mother. So many different ways to be a mother. Some of us have been mother to our own parents. That's a hard one. That's really complex in a lot of ways I won't get into. Some of us have, wife, mother, sister, lover, friend, colleague, partner. Sometimes we're just being something to someone in passing. Sometimes we're a good Samaritan. Sometimes we're a traveler. Sometimes we're just communicating in a moment on a subject that doesn't suit the female category of cliches or stereotypes or weirdly almost mandatory experiences. And I'm not saying like, oh, you have to have a baby, that's how you prove you're female. Clearly that's not the case. There's so many things wrong with that, I can't begin to get into it, but I will say I'm a certain person. I'm slightly offended. I'm pretty deeply offended that people are not counting. I'm slightly offended that people are not counting people who don't want children. But maybe they don't know that we exist, so that's not a huge offense. But I'm pretty deeply offended that people are not counting people who might want children and it's not worked out for various reasons. They're dealing with enough. Quit trying to tell them they can't be who they are and what God made them because something on this earth didn't click properly for them in a really detrimental way. That offends me massively. Somebody's possibly getting hurt over that, and I don't like that. But just in general, there are a million different ways to be all these different people, to relate to somebody, to protect someone, to speak up. I saw a thing I won't get into. I'm just watching YouTube videos and I thought I was gonna, just have a light moment and nothing deep. Suddenly something very heavy happened while someone was filming. In person, another female in the audience spoke up. In the comment section, other people were speaking up. And it just really can be an important thing in life, having a passing moment. Sometimes who you are to someone that's very important is that person who wrote that one sentence on my wall one day. And we can be that. We can fulfill all of that, and we can do it based on what we have to give in the moment. Sometimes we're being that for someone every single day. Sometimes they wake us up in the middle of the night. There are a lot of roles that we play. And then sometimes for some of us, at some point, that all stops. It's been taking up time, it's been taking up space, it's been taking up the inside of our minds and filling our hearts, for better or worse. Okay? I don't necessarily mean that in a positive way. Sometimes it's very hurtful, but sometimes it's filling every aspect of us to a degree where there is no space for who we are and have been all along by ourselves in the room. And a huge mention for those of us, because I've been through this, who have always known who we are or who have not. But whatever we were had to be hidden for survival's sake. We were protecting ourselves, we were protecting others. The message was clear. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a large note that needs to be made. I personally always knew who I was. And I also knew increasingly it was not safe to show it, be it, hint at it, or to let anyone get the concept that I had survived in any way, right? Stargate fans, nothing of the host survives. I pretended nothing of the host had survived for a lot of the same reasons that happen in that program. And for people who don't watch it, it's like something else has taken over your life. It is not kind. It will destroy you and everyone you love. And you are hidden away because you're not allowed to have control anymore. So, what happens when all of that stops? It's a very well-known thing that women can get to a place where we're somewhere around 40. That's generally, it could be any age. You could be dealing with this at 16. I don't live the cliches, and I haven't always had the cliche experiences. But I did have the experience of the events of 2019 forward happening, end of 2019, next year and all that. And they happened when I was around 36. So I'm somewhere in that place where I'm shifting toward that age range, somewhere around 40. And everything stopped. Everything stopped really, really hard under those circumstances. And I had a chance to be who I was. And every other role I had ever played, like a million different outfits and layers, cloaks, like everything, undergarments, we're supposed to have on like the strong corset, right? We're supposed to be the backbone for everybody, so we put that corset on because it supports ours enough that we can carry all of their weight. We're supposed to be the attractive, lovable, pleasant female effigy, so we put that brassiere on because that is in effigy of something that means like maternal loving support. We get our maternal gear together, and that is our, figuratively speaking, we've got that corset on to support the backbone. We've got the brassiere there to keep our maternal loving soft femininity in place. And perhaps we have some kind of protection or just something we're trying to keep to ourselves for a minute. So you choose whatever undergarments, the underwear, or maybe you are old-fashioned and you're wearing some pantaloons. I've actually seen you can go get those these days. You can literally be wearing the things where you've got elastic around your ankles and elastic around your waist, and the whole thing in between is your underwear. It's amazing. I didn't know it was readily available out there. I don't know about quality and stuff, but I kind of like things like that, and lingerie is one of my interests. So when I found that, I thought, what the heck? This is so fly. You can go get this already made. I suppose in today's world, I should expect you can get anything, but I was surprised. And you end up putting on extra layers. There's the person you're supposed to be when it's kind of like that's just who you are, so you can maintain yourself underneath. That's your base, right? The personality base, so that you can pile everything else on top. And then there's something like the slip that you put on that kind of covers it and gives you a smooth appearance over the top, so all the rest of that stuff is sort of cinched in, covered up a little bit. And that's the thing that you will see with people who are intimate to your heart or your life. Maybe that's your closest family, your dearest friends, maybe that's your life partner, and they're going to see that aspect of you. Everything under it is supposed to be for you, but the slip is like, yeah, I show this on a regular basis to those who are most intimate, like, just a step away. So you have that in, so you can just kind of keep it together well enough. That thing is there to smooth everything. It's there to make it look all cohesive, like you didn't have to do the work to put all those other parts of yourself together. And so you have that. You're a little more together, and then there's who you are to everyone else in life, right? You might have somebody like the male person you're accustomed to, but you don't know them like that. So before you open the door, you put on another dress. It's an outer layer now. You can wear this out. You've got the outer layer you. It's together. It might be kind of basic. Maybe it's a little black dress kind of thing. You've got a capsule wardrobe personality going on. Who knows? But you put that on top of it. It might have a pattern. It's a little bit sheer because it's a nice fabric, but you're not trying to be too personal about it, so that's why you have the slip. You know, you open the door to these other people in your life and they get to see you kind of put together. Then you have a whole different layer of things you put on. You need to try to stand up and be heads above the rest so you can compete in the workplace. So you've got your heels that you put on that raise you up a few inches. And then you've got the clothing metaphor is really sticking with me right now. You've got your moment where after you leave, you'll be different versions of that at work too. You probably have a blazer also. Like you might just have on all the stuff and the dress and the heels when you are doing your work at your desk, but when the boss is coming by to have a specific talk, you need to put that blazer on because now you need to be super polished. You need to show that you put the forethought into your life, your personality, and your wardrobe. So now you've got heels and blazer on top of it. And if you're something like a church girl, you might have a hat that nobody expected off to the side. It could be in its own hat box. Maybe you got fancy and old-fashioned with it. It's in a nice hat box. And when you're going off to the church world, now you need to be together and stylish, but we're going to rein it back a little bit and still stunt. We want everybody to know that we're there because we love ourselves, we love the Lord, we love the neighbors, and we love fashion. So you put that hat on, and now it's drawing some attention, but it's another thing you're wearing in that moment. It's another personality part that you put on because it's appropriate in that moment, in that day. And ultimately you just keep having these layers. Let's say there's a chilly attitude in the air. Maybe there's someone there who doesn't really love you that much. You might not have the blazer on, but maybe you do. I used to carry multiple layers, and I used to carry a wrap, one of those long, you remember, okay, so some of us will recall back in the day when the pashmina shawl became popular, and I didn't have the one that was made of pashmina. I didn't want it. I can't stand anything wool-like, but I had a bunch of other ones in other materials, and I basically carried that all of the time because it always helped me. If I had a jacket on, I still had it, excuse me, in case the jacket was too warm, but having nothing, no extra stuff, it wasn't warm enough. So you might be like me and have something like that. It adds a little extra style. And in case there's someone chilly in the room, now you can wrap yourself up with an extra layer. Personality of we're shutting it down, we're a little bit covered, we're a little more disconnected. You've got on this whole outfit of personality pieces that you've constructed for all of these various reasons from the bottom up, and you wear them all of the time and every day in all these situations, and it's such a part of who you are. People know you by your style. They know what you look like in your clothing, and they know what you look like in your personality. So for me, what ended up happening around that time frame, starting at the end of 2019, well, it was time to clean up. Everybody else went away. Everybody wanted to be at arm's length. I had a moment to myself, and it's kind of like if you go into your own bathroom at the end of this long day and life where you have all of these different layers on, including your makeup, because that's your mask. You need to put that mask on, and it needs to be tight and perfect. It's another layer on top of who you are underneath. So that time frame, everyone was gone. I had some privacy. Everyone wanted to be at a distance, and it was time to just clean off everything I had built up and everything everyone had given me to wear. So you go into your restroom, you're perfectly alone, it's complete privacy, and everything comes off. And now what? Because if you are that attached to who you are, if you're that accustomed to who you have been, to what you've put on, to the personality, even your mommy vibes or your waifu vibes, but then it all comes off and you're alone. And during that time frame, I truly was alone, and this was a wonderful thing for me, but it was unheard of. And I found myself realizing Like, anyone can go through a time frame where they get to a point in life where they've built themselves to a certain place. And again, the cliche is somewhere around 40, but wherever it's happening for you, it can happen at any time. I was somewhere around 40. And everything else comes off. And I'm just there in pure privacy. And what do you do when there's no one but you in the room? And you have nothing but an empty space? Eventually you walk by a mirror and you see what the rawest aspect of what you were born like, how you came into the world and how you'll go out of it, you know, bodily speaking. That's what you were given from jump. And you're processing how it's changed since you first got here, because changes have taken place. You know, what is all of this now underneath everything I wore for everyone else? What's happening when I'm alone and there's no reason to even worry about what I look like or what I'm covering or who I'm being or what I'm putting on? And anyone can have this experience. But there's something very specific about someone, especially my experience I'm thinking about, where you discover during that time frame, you know, you walk by that mirror and you discover, I don't know, a series of birthmarks or something that you didn't know you had, a patch of freckles, whatever it is. It's something that's new, but we don't want to necessarily call it harmful. For me, my neurodivergence is not a harmful thing. For a lot of people, they 100% see it that way, and that's the experience they're having. So it could be anything. But there's something new and you didn't know it was there, and you're surprised and you're trying to process it. You want to learn about it. You might want some help. You need somebody to tell you if what they're seeing is problematic. Should you be worried, you know? So you discovered this neurodivergent specks all over your skin. And you can cover it again the next time you're wearing a million things around everybody. But every single time you're in that situation by yourself and it's just clean up everything else, just me and the mirror, you're going to see it again because it's always there. Some of us discover this and it's like it's a new change. We've always been neurodivergent, but I feel like I said neurodivergent. Anyway, maybe my mouth is getting confused. We've always been NDs, but when you have that information, when suddenly everything comes screaming at you, now you're not just changing from who you've been all of your life, you know, that age range where, again, the most recognizable way to describe it is that you had children and now your children are a certain age, or perhaps they've moved out and it's like, oh, okay. Empty nest syndrome, but it's like a mental empty nest syndrome. You know, what happens when inside of your mind, all of the other birds and eggs and everything are gone and you're just looking around, what's left? You suddenly are wondering, anyone would be paying attention to what is there, what they have built, what is left, what you remember wanting when you were a child, a teenager, 5 years ago. But now we have this extra thing where someone's telling us, oh, and by the way, magical wand has been waved. I tapped you on the head and I left you with the gift of neurodivergence. Now you know this thing. Now you're reprocessing everything. You're not just trying to remember who you once were. You're trying to figure out what the heck you even are now. And it adds all of these extra things. There is, my mind right now is thinking about the ADHD experience, and I have a touch of this. I have a mix because it's the autism and the ADHD. Sometimes I excel at stuff and sometimes I don't. I can never really even necessarily know, except that I know myself that well, I can kind of project it. But I'm just thinking about the simplest scenarios. I'm not an entertainer, but I've been put into entertaining positions because of previous life and living situations where I end up having to try to entertain, and it's as simple as there's going to be a dinner and there's going to be a person or some people. But for me, it's not that simple. I find myself thinking, okay, I know how I live, I know what I want, I know, how I eat, how I prepare my tea. There was a situation one time where someone came over and it was, oh, they love tea. Let's do tea. I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't prepared for this. There was plenty of tea. I had lots of tea. Other people had lots of tea. It's not in order. It wasn't in a way where you can pick it up and bring it. Like the way I used it, I could find my stuff. But if you sent someone in there, who knows if they could find it? It wasn't looking nice. I didn't feel completely comfortable with that, the presentation of it. I felt exposed. Like that was too private. Me having my tea, hydrating how I eat, it's like it's a private thing for me. It's part of how I refuel, and I don't really love to share that with everybody. It feels very, very intimate, because that's how it has been in my life. And when it has been public, it has still felt very intimate. It just feels like now I don't have privacy and I'm exposed for various reasons. So I wasn't really having fun just with the presentation of the tea. It was stressing me out. There were so many different ones, and the person wanted me to make tea. I end up in a situation where I'm making somebody else's tea. I don't make it in the way where if you go online, you look it up, oh, here's the way we do it. This is the proper way. It's the right amount of time. It's the correct temperature of the water. What I used to do was pop my mug into the microwave, nuke the water, throw that tea bag in there, and then go on with my life, knowing I'm going to forget. I won't know if it's been 4 minutes or 15, but that was fine for me. I mean, it depends on the type of tea. If you do like tea, you'll know you can't do that with some stuff. Like if it's the actual tea leaf and you do that, it's going to be a really disgusting mug of tea. But a lot of my stuff is a tisane. It doesn't have that, so I could do that. Some of it is literally saying you can brew it for 5 to 15 minutes. I didn't worry about it. I make my choices that way. But when I had to make tea for somebody else, I was like, oh my God, do I use a measuring cup? How many ounces does this hold? I don't measure my water. I'm not accustomed to that. So I'm thinking, how many ounces? What do I do? What should I use to serve it? What's the proper way to put it in? You know, it just became a whole thing. For some people, it's like, oh, it's a cup of tea. That's not a problem at all. But in my mind, every single step went through my mind, from how it didn't look nice and it wasn't in order, and trying to figure out how to remember what was in there to even offer it. It was an intimate part of my day, and that was my tea, and now it was becoming public. And I didn't even necessarily mind sharing it with someone. I mean, you know, sometimes you have your favorite thing and you don't have much of it, or that's all, like it's discontinued. You don't want someone off to the side. I had somebody off to the side being like, oh, here's this. How about that? What's this? I'm like, don't show them that. Inside of myself, I can't say anything, but I'm screaming, don't show them that. That was in one packet, and I've never been able to find it anywhere else. It was a sampler, and I couldn't find it anywhere else, but I love it. Please don't get them wanting to drink something I can't find anymore where I have 2 or 3, you know? So that was stressful. Every aspect of it was stress, 2 or 3 for the rest of life. Okay, not like I think I can find it more, but at a certain point I'm like, I give up. I can't find it. It was a nice sampler, but really it was just there to torture me. Now I like it and I'll never have more. Fun. That's not the tea I want to give away. I don't want to harm myself in that way. It's needless. So I end up in that position, trying to figure out what's being offered. I don't know how to measure the water. I'm trying to figure out how hot I should get it. I'm trying to think about what kind of tea responds in what way. I have a reasonable awareness of this, but I don't use it. I just nuke the water and I make the tea. That's good enough for me. That's fine. That suits my life. That gives me the nutrients and the hydration. But for presentation at a little dinner party that's not even mine, for someone who also isn't even mine, it just put me into this incredible lurch where I had this sensation. I'm going on about the tea thing because it's a distinct memory, and it's one of the reasons, you know, I ended up having to do a lot of stuff I wasn't comfortable with that day, including fixing plates for other people. I also don't know what the perfect serving is for other people. I don't work that way. I just live my life. I eat when I'm hungry, and I eat how much my body needs. I don't know how to make a plate that has the proper amount of pretty looking foods and you know, I don't do that. That's not how I work. So I was profoundly, incredibly uncomfortable the entire time for various reasons, including that. I was put on the spot like it was my affair, and it wasn't. I had not done this to myself. I just kind of couldn't physically get out of it. It was a, whatever you call it, it was a proximity issue. And so these things in my life I had already dealt with. Everyone else is just, you know, 2 people standing in a room. You have somebody over, and one person is like, oh, they're like, would you like some water? And the other person responds, actually, I would like some tea if you have some. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll just make you tea. And then they just go off and do it. It's like everything is fine. And for me, every kind of calculation went through my mind, and it was nothing but stress and me realizing this is another traditional female thing I don't know how to do. You know, good with housekeeping and good with entertaining and blah, blah, blah. And again, I had that like influence in my life of that southern background, the hospitality, how we behave, how you do this. So it's a big thing. I didn't know how to do it. And then at a certain point in my life, I didn't have to do any of that anymore. But oddly, I was more occupied with it than ever. Everything of that nature that had ever happened before, because now I've discovered, oh, okay, I'm autistic and I'm ADHD. So this is why when I'm flustered, when I'm flustered enough, I completely shut down. And this is why when somebody puts me in an entertaining conversational situation, oh, that's bright. I think it's fine. This is why when somebody puts me into an unexpected, entertaining conversational situation, I suddenly have no words, and I find it hard to even open my mouth, but my mind shuts down and I have no words. Selective mutism. I grew up in a world where that just meant, oh, well, you've been broken by this, that, and the other. It's anxiety and you need to fix it. You need to deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, it's really that big of a deal if that's how your brain works. If your brain processes an overage of information and decides too much is going on, I'm going to start shutting down excess functions. And that is what my brain does. Then when you're overwhelmed in a social situation and you can't speak, that's the end of it. So it's just indicative of a situation in my life that continued to happen over and over and over again, where I was supposed to present as the lovely female with the proper, set of things to do. And I couldn't. And I didn't understand why I couldn't. And I wasn't spending too much time thinking about it because I knew, the story is, well, that's anxiety and you've been through stuff. And I knew I had been through stuff. Anyway, I knew that was true. But when you're working on it for the whole of your life and the problem never goes away, because I was working on it with the wrong psychology. I didn't know I was neurodivergent, and neurotypical psychology is not the same. For an NT, sometimes that reaction is because something happened and they are now functioning in a state of hyper awareness that's not good for them. It's not how they work. For a neurodivergent person, this is literally how we work. Our gifts and our challenges in life are built to be this way for a reason. So I was trying to heal something that wasn't going to heal because it wasn't ever a wound. It was not ever something wrong. It was literally how everything functioned. So I end up having a quiet moment to myself to think about who I am and what I want to do and what I want to be and what feeds me and how I rest and how I heal from other things. And all of a sudden, everything that I'd ever been through with someone else in the room or because of someone else was flying at me, and it was all in my face. Because I realize why everything in my life has happened the way that it's happened. And I spend the next year having my entire life flash before my eyes in what sounds like a post-traumatic way. And a lot of it was, but a lot of it was just clear understanding for the first time. It was like I had been filming the entire time, and for some reason, every time I hit play to play the footage, some weird filter got added onto the footage, so I never saw it clearly. I saw it with some kind of color haze or out of focus. And no matter how hard I tried to focus, some people will know about this, especially in a digital world, when something suddenly just goes swoosh, fuzzy, out of focus, it hurts your eyes. For me, it hurts my eyes because my brain is trying really hard to focus. But if the image is fuzzy, you can't focus that in because there's nothing sharp. My brain is trying to sharpen it, and there is nothing sharp there to see. So then at some point, I discover this indie thing, and all the memories come screaming back because now I've figured out, oh, I'm accidentally clicking this button and making everything have a color tint and a fuzzy, hazy, soft focus tint on it, or process on it. So now I can go back and rewatch every memory in my life in perfect clarity. And this not only made me replay everything, but with perfect clarity and extra sharpness, all the memories seemed like they came back and they were more vivid than when I remembered them before, because now I have all of this extra detail. So at the very time in my life when I am finally able to focus fully on me, I am bombarded with infinite memories of every interaction I've ever had with anybody else all throughout my life.